The Gavel and the Ghost. Judge Adebayo Anyaoku believed in weight, not the abstract weight of justice, but the tangible weight of a gold watch on his wrist, the heavy oak of his chamber door, and the satisfying heft of a bribe slipped into a leather briefcase. His courtroom, number 4, was a theater where he was the sole director. The law was his script, but he was not afraid to improvise for his preferred audience: the wealthy, the connected, the politicians who spoke in whispers of golf club memberships and plots of land in exclusive estates. His most masterful performance was the case of the Okoro farmland. On one side stood a conglomerate, fronted by the smooth-talking Chief Balagun, a man whose smile was as wide as his political influence. On the other stood a community of yam farmers, represented by a weary old man named Mr. Chibuike, whose evidence was nothing more than the calloused skin of his hands and ancestral stories. "My lord," Mr. Chibuike had pleaded, his voice cracking, "this land has fed our families for 200 years. Our fathers are buried there." Judge Anyaoku had listened with a mask of deep consideration, all while feeling the pressure of Chief Balogun's gaze from across the room. He knew the chief's documents were forgeries, clever fictions created by expensive lawyers. He knew the farmers were telling the truth, but the truth was poor. The truth couldn't guarantee his son Kenichi a place in that prestigious law firm in London after his graduation. With a final decisive bang of his gavel, he had declared, "The evidence presented by the plaintiff is compelling. The land is awarded to Balogun Global." The wail that erupted from Mr. Chibuike was a sound Anyaoku chose to forget. It was the sound of ghosts being evicted from their graves, a sound easily drowned out by the clinking of champagne glasses with the chief later that evening. 2 years passed. Life was good. Kenichi was top of his class at the University of Lagos, a brilliant, handsome boy who was the very center of the judge's universe. Every corrupt decision, every perversion of justice, Anyaoku justified to himself as a necessary sacrifice for his son's future. He was building an empire for a king. The phone call came on a sweltering Tuesday night. It was Kenichi, his voice a frantic, terrified whisper. Dad, I hit someone. Oh God, I hit someone." The judge's blood ran cold. "Where are you? Did you stop?" "No," Kenichi sobbed. "I panicked. I drove. Dad, what do I do?" "Do nothing. Stay home. Don't speak to anyone. I will handle it," Anyaoku commanded, his mind already spinning, clicking through the Rolodex of police commissioners and inspectors who owed him favors. This was what his power was for, to shield his own. He spent the next hour pulling strings. The initial reports were messy. A hit and run in the crowded, poorly lit district of Ajegunle. A young woman, a street vendor, was the victim. She was in critical condition at the general hospital. There were witnesses, but their descriptions were vague. Anyaoku made a few calls, promised a few promotions, and felt the familiar cogs of the system he commanded begin to turn in his favor. The case would be buried. His son would be safe. He drove to Kenichi's apartment to manage the situation personally. He found his son pacing, a wreck of a boy. "It's being taken care of," Anyaoku said, his voice a balm of false confidence. "We just need to get your car to a private body shop in the morning. No one will ever know." "But the girl," Kenichi whispered, his face pale. "Is she?" "She is a nobody, son," the judge said, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. "A street vendor. The city is full of them. In a week, no one will even remember her name." He was merely repeating the logic that had governed his entire career. The next morning, feeling he had the situation contained, Judge Anyaoku decided to visit the precinct himself, just to ensure his orders were being followed. He walked in with the unassailable arrogance of a man who owned the building and everyone in it. He asked the desk sergeant, a tired man named Officer Dyke, for the incident report on the Ajagunle hit-and-run. "Ah, Judge Anyaoku." "Good morning," Dyke said, his eyes betraying nothing. "The file is right here. Tragic business. The girl didn't make it. Passed away about an hour ago." Anyaoku felt a flicker of irritation, not sympathy. A death made things more complicated, more expensive. "A name?" he asked, feigning casual interest. "For the paperwork." Officer Dyke slid a piece of paper across the counter. "Of course, my lord. Her family just identified her. Her name was Mercy Chibuike." The name hit Judge Anyaoku with the force of a physical blow. "Chibuike, it couldn't be!" He stared at the officer, his mind refusing to connect the dots. "Chibuike?" he repeated, his voice suddenly hoarse. "From where?" Officer Dyke shrugged, a gesture of weary indifference. "Don't know, sir. They're poor folk. The father said they used to be farmers somewhere in the east, but lost their land in some court case a couple of years back. Had to move to the city to survive. The girl, She, was selling roasted corn by the roadside to help pay for her younger brother's school fees." Every word was a nail being hammered into the judge's coffin. He saw it all in a blinding, horrifying flash. His gavel falling, the old man's wail, the family forced off their ancestral land, driven into the crushing poverty of the city slums, forced to sell corn on a dangerous, poorly lit street where his own son, driving a car bought with the proceeds of that very injustice, would strike her down and leave her to die. He had not just sentenced the family to poverty, he had sentenced this girl to death. He had orchestrated his son's crime. Suddenly, the doors to the precinct swung open. Two grim-faced detectives walked in, flanking a shaken, tearful young man. Anyaoku recognized him. He was Kenichi's classmate. "Sir, we have a confession," one of the detectives announced, his voice ringing through the quiet station. "This young man, Femi, was in the car with your son last night. He says he couldn't live with the guilt." Anyaoku's world dissolved. The web of favors, the network of corruption, it was all useless. A confession, a credible witness, the son of a famous judge in a fatal hit-and-run. It was a media firestorm waiting to happen. None of his powerful friends would touch this. Chief Balogan wouldn't even answer his calls. He was alone. The agony that seized him was a living thing. It was not the fear of public shame or the loss of his career. It was the soul-crushing realization of the perfect, inescapable circle he had drawn. His son, the boy he had corrupted his soul to protect, was now at the mercy of the very system he had taught to be merciless. Kenichi would be thrown into a world without compassion, a world the judge himself had meticulously crafted. He would face a judge who might be just as ambitious, just as cruel, just as bought and paid for as Adebayo Anyaoku had been. He stumbled out of the precinct, the Lagos heat suffocating him. He could hear the echo of his own gavel over and over, not as a sound of power, but as the rhythmic tolling of a funeral bell. He had perverted justice to build a kingdom for his son, and in doing so, had handed him the executioner's axe. He was a judge, trapped in a prison of his own making, with a life sentence of knowing he was the sole author of his own family's damnation.